Hi, everyone. Welcome. We've got an expert with us today. This is Whitney Chenet with Findlay Investments. Welcome.
Hi, Tommy. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for being here today. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you.
Yep, same.
Whitney has a vast experience in business acquisition and real estate and financial blind spots that people see or buyers overlook.
From a buyer standpoint, I think the biggest financial blind spot that I've seen is financials in general. I think people are not as in tune with the financials of the business, and unfortunately, sometimes even their own finances.
Sure.
And then taking it a step further to understand what those numbers mean and how they translate into not only the acquisition, but once it's acquired, what does it look like then? And how does that all work together and impact one another?
Sure.
I've had people that I've met that had already bought an existing business only to find out that they didn't look at any financials. Okay, there's one avenue. Or they did, but you also have to be aware that you can't just take everybody's word for it. When somebody gives you something, I'm going to reference the COVID period because there were a lot of financial programs and things out there where now post that time period, I'm hearing of a lot of situations where financials or numbers were skewed in a way to satisfy one aspect of the business at that time. And then they go to sell later, and it's not necessarily transparent to the buyer of what actually happened. So that's
tricky.
That's one lane that I chose to go down for whatever reason, but it's a real thing. And, you know, business is great. Real estate's great. It can be, but if you don't do your due diligence, you can really get hurt later.
Yeah. What type of due diligence do you do, or how do you recommend that someone stay organized when it comes
As
to
much as
their
possible.
finances?
Everything that's told to you, verify it yourself, whether that's through public data, whether that's through working with the other team of the seller or the buyer or your agent. Sometimes there's lawyers involved, whoever the appropriate professional is to get that technical data and verify it. And I mean, conceptually, that's it, you know, but that can go down a lot of different avenues depending on what the asset is or what the business is and who are the people involved. You know, partners bring a lot to the table, to the business, to the financials. Yeah, just verify, ask questions, and don't hold back because it's your discovery period. It's your time to verify, but learn, you know, and make sure that you're making the best decision possible. So
kind of on that same path, how do you determine whether like a real estate investment or a operating business is a better fit for someone or an investor?
Probably a couple ways. I think it depends if it's a new green investor or if it's a seasoned investor. They're going to have two different attitudes because experience matters. But I think it starts with a real honest conversation. And it depends who you work with. But, you know, I've played the role as broker and I've played the role as owner. I played the role as operator, buyer, seller. And I'm someone who's willing to have that conversation. And what I mean by the honest conversation is, what are you looking for? What do you have in place to contribute to that? And where are the gaps in that? What don't you have? What don't you know? And who do you need? You know, I read a book, Who Not How. And it's a very simple book, to be honest with you, but it just overly beats in the concept of you don't have to do it all. And you want to pull people in the right places.
Yes.
So whether that's owner, operator, whether that's investor, you know, there's a million different scenarios it can go depending on the structure and the details, but it's really important to be honest with yourself and to find someone who's asking you these questions, I think, because a lot of people get into things that they don't really understand how it's going to go.
Absolutely. So when we're dealing with clients and we start with risk tolerance.
Yeah.
And even talking about someone's risk tolerance, not every client understands what that means. And it's really like your tolerance or your ability to handle risk on both the upside and the downside.
Yeah.
And what's your time horizon in relation to this investment or that specific asset, whether it's like a business acquisition or buying real estate or investing in the stock market.
Yeah. And there's there's not one right answer or not one right way. It just depends on who you are and what you want.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing to have choices.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of people don't even know what their risk tolerance is until they're asked, where you
Mhm.
start to lay out some of these different scenarios, whether it's the long term, the short term,
Yeah.
cash in, loan, all the different aspects of what makes an investment good.
Mhm.
Having that real conversation
Yes.
matters, I
Yeah.
think.
And seeing like what's the potential downside?
Mhm.
Because I think humans naturally, it's we talk about like, are you a glass half full or a glass half empty type of investor?
Yeah.
And some people say, well, I'm a glass half full. But it's like, yeah, until things turn south.
But you have to be
So,
aware of the
mhm.
reality.
Mhm.
Always be glass half full. Absolutely. We all want the upside, but you have to be aware
Yes.
that there could be a downside too. And it doesn't mean that it destroys everything, but have a plan. Think
Mhm.
about it.
Yeah.
I've always been a big proponent for due diligence and acquisition, like I said, because that's your chance to
Mhm.
learn.
Mhm.
And sometimes those things that you didn't take the time to vet out, that could be $1 million.
Yeah.
That could be
Yeah.
your whole project. That could be,
Mhm.
it could be something so big that it changes
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So why not spend an extra 10 days or
Mhm.
30 days or whatever it is?
Sure. So in your previous business that you started
Mhm.
and then sold,
Mhm.
how did you evaluate risk for the long term with that?
That's a great question. That personal investment actually was led by passion for me. It wasn't the dollar that drew me to that.
Mhm.
I was led to the brand, what it could do for the community, what it could do for your health. This one happened to be related to raw juice. I'll just put it out there.
Mhm.
So it had quality ingredients that helped your body function. I was drawn to all of those aspects, and it was the financials that I needed to learn. They were new. It was a brand new franchise. I was a brand new investor in that space. I didn't know that industry at all other than a consumer.
Mhm.
So I don't normally say this about like a financial, but my heart led the way on that one. And then I had to vet out the financials, and they were brand new in franchising and only had kind of a mom and pop type operation before that. So there was a lot of risk.
Mhm.
And for that business, I was able to handle a lot of the initial investment, but for the build out of the space, I needed a loan.
Mhm.
And, that's a factor as well. Do you need a loan or is it pure cash? Because loans come with requirements.
Mhm.
And we're talking about risk and tolerance.
Yeah.
A bank has that too.
Mhm.
So when you're new and you're vulnerable on paper,
Yeah.
the bank is going to ask for more
Yes.
assurance or guarantees and
Personal collateral.
yeah. So you have to lay that all out. What cash is going to be tied up now? What do I need to do to satisfy the loan requirements? What do I need to do to get the operations moving, which comes with people? And
Mhm.
people need income. They need
Yeah.
there's layers to it. And
Mhm.
if you don't think through that, even just a little bit in the beginning, you're going to get blindsided with some of it.
Mhm.
And, in this scenario with a bank being involved, they require a pro forma and things, which we had on our own, but theirs might look different than
Mhm.
ours,
Mhm.
or some of the line items may be represented differently to a bank than they are for the person actually in the business doing it. So there was risk
Mhm.
because we had to rely on ourselves as
Mhm.
far as the success. We had trust in this brand, but we had to build this.
Mhm.
So I took on a ton of risk.
Yeah.
I didn't have income through that business for a
Sure.
while.
Yeah.
But pouring everything I had into it and
Absolutely.
making sure everybody else was taken care of along the way.
Mhm.
If you're not in a place that you can continue some cash flow from another arena, or you don't have a ton of savings, or, whatever your personal situation is,
Mhm.
you can't do that. You can't live on nothing,
Yeah.
and other people can't either. So
Mhm.
you take all these different topics and you find the balance and you
Mhm.
find the blend, and
Yeah.
it works or it doesn't.
So what key financial metrics or like red flags do you look for? And this is
loaded
more for like
question.
for the
Yeah.
operating business versus like a real estate investment.
Cash flow.
Mhm.
That's my first thought, cash flow. And
Yeah.
that means a lot of things. Cash flow and the understanding of it.
Mhm.
Really. I think
Mhm.
that's where I start. And then verifying that someone's real. You have,
Yeah.
if anyone can say I have,
Yes.
20 grand or $1 million, you have to verify it. You have
Sure.
to make sure that that money can apply in the way that it needs to. to allow the operation to happen.
Sure.
Because whether we like it or not, it's all tied to money.
Absolutely.
You got to make it, you got to spend it, but you got to create it. And that's what the business is all about,
So how does leverage differ in risk and opportunity when applied to like a real estate versus business acquisition?
Leverage and risk between real estate and business. My first thought is the partners. Who's involved?
Sure.
I think that's a big part of it. Everything we talked about as far as what the business needs and who's involved as far as a financial institution, a loan, who are the players and what do they bring with them? And that kind of creates those, okay, you have this to leverage or you don't. So how can we create leverage?
Okay.
And to be honest, I feel it starts there because it's the partners who are creating what the business or if the business is real estate, it's still a business because you're operating it. It's a different type of operation, but you're operating an asset. The people.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
What's your experience with that in the past? Have you had transactions where you've had looked at it like from an acquisition standpoint where there were already partners in place? Or where maybe you brought in partners?
Yeah, both. Not to sound repetitive, but it really depends on the details that come. It's not copy and paste. I mean, if you're an investor and you're just going for a single family residential real estate portfolio, you might have like a certain zip code, a certain school district, a certain market, or a certain, square footage or bedroom, bathroom. That might be a little more cookie cutter. But typically it's not interesting. And the structure of that partnership can vary. And you never want to partner with somebody unless they can bring something to the table that you can't, in my opinion. I think that's a pretty good business advice, but I strongly feel that way. Because sure, I could figure it out, but how great to have someone who's already done that experience to just step in and hit the ground running.
Absolutely. They have a different perspective.
And whether that's, just a financial partner who's invested in something that you're new in or getting into, there's a lot of value in their experience and their money.
Sure. And surrounding yourself with like that center of influence of professionals that kind of give it insight, but also that accountability partnership of their expertise. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And just people who are passionate about it and care. The care is a big thing. I mean, people care about their money, sure. I'm picturing like a stock investor in New York City compared to someone who's in grassroots community efforts, just trying to fund small. There's so many different types of investors and investments, and some that, may just look pretty, like they may actually have a great return. Sure. Some of the ones that look all high level and that you think are so far out of your reach, they may not even be getting a return, You don't really know.
That's true. That's very true. Sometimes you feel like you have to have a more complex investment strategy with the more wealth that you get.
Less is more in a lot of ways.
Sometimes you can get just as much of a return and have it simple. Or at least try to make it simplified so that you can keep track of it. You know how it's invested. It's customized for you. And that's a big
and keep your finger on the pulse. But, the older I get, I think simplicity, there's a lot of beauty to that. It's really easy in this complicated world and, a lot of deals are complex and that's okay. But I am not a proponent for overcomplicating things anymore.
Absolutely. Well, tune in for part 2 of this series with Whitney Chenet from Findlay Investments.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you.
Reach me. I have a website, whitneychenet.com. I have an email on my website or a form submittal that you can reach me. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook under Findlay Investments. So you're welcome to reach out there.
Well, Whitney, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And your great insight in this.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, good luck to you this year.
Thank you.